I've never had really any great ideas about constitutional originalism. Um, my intuition has always given me some reason to hesitate a little bit, but typically the view as regards technical matters, in terms of conservatism about technical matters, I tend to just, because of methodological standards, I tend to need to go with, whoever has the Humean standard, the hardest, highest standard. I'll just go with that. And originalism tends to be associated with this kind of approach. I think, this is the hard standard, right? This is what it means to be like an industrial strength constitutional scholar, right? Okay. Maybe. I don't know. If Justice Breyer was what? A little bit of a pushover, a little touchy-feely, things change. The uses of words change and so on. So, despite the fact that clearly Justice Breyer holds the more enlightened position, he is nevertheless vulnerable to attacks of being spineless or toothless or gutless or ballless, testicleless. Well, they wouldn't have accused... Anyway, I digress. I'm not going to start rambling about politics. Okay. Anyway, constitutional originalism. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about a document, first of all, a document we call the Constitution. Maybe it also refers to the Declaration, but if the laws really are, the spine, the fishbone of the law, the backbone of the law, hypokemenon, ousia, hypokemenon, the underlying, the foundation of the law, the Constitution, right? Right. De jure officialdom. De jure officialdom. Formal. Explicit. Itemized. United States Constitution. Right? Good. Originalism. Who wrote the Constitution? Those guys. Whoever signed it, I guess. And we know the constitutional scholars, they tell us. Who wrote the Constitution? How did they originally use the words? I will tell you. They originally used the words in a universal sense. The theory of originalism looks back to some language like it's really so historically situated, but you have to remember that the writers of that stuff were philosophers, and philosophers write for the ages. That's a way that we've heard some of the ideology coming from the justices now are doing what? Activist judgments for the ages. No, other way around. No, the lawmakers the people that make the laws and the constitutions, they write for the ages. What did I just drop? They write for the ages. Judges do nothing for the ages. A judge is just a fucking car mechanic. He goes, you go and it's Jiffy Lube. Come back in 90 minutes. I change your oil. No disrespect to judges, but hey, look, we're talking about the law itself. De jure, right? We're not talking about adolescent poetry from 1750 in New England. This isn't not historically situated in such a way with language that is not coming from a region of learning or letters. Capisci? Entiendes, Mendes? Do you understand, originalists? Which language you think you're working with? Judy Blume? Roald Dahl? No, you're fucking working with philosophical language. For the ages. That language is so different? No. Yeah, look, I don't know the Federalist Papers that well. Okay? But I know Aristotle and Plato better than y'all. Lawyers and shit. Yeah, because I'm a philosopher. Okay. And I know that if you're a philosopher and you can write like David Hume or Plato or Aristotle or any of them, right? No problem. No problem. Yeah, it means you're you're cut from the cloth, so to speak, right? Ageless, timeless language. Come on now. Tell me why I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong, but again, I'm an unaffiliated guy, so I'm a little bit solipsistic. So I don't know, sometimes maybe I'm ignorant, sometimes I'm behind. I said about Maria Bamford, by the way, I was like, whoa, Maria Bamford came out with a new book. It turns out that it was 2 years old. Yeah, I make mistakes. Yeah, I always have to check on YouTube how long ago. Okay, how long ago? Make sure it was at least within the day. Oh, constitutional originalists. Are you really so careless? Is that really Really? You have to be originalist about universality? As though the language of the universality were not always universal. I mean, what? We need to go line by line, and we need to actually get out some of the problematic texts and actually take a look. Because now, when I think about it this way, about originalism being, I mean, we're talking about philosophical documents. We're talking about documents that have been written for the ages. Entiendes, Mendes. For the ages. They were written for the ages. Judgments are not made for the ages. Documents, founding documents are written for the ages. So what do you mean? Original to what language? To the language of universal, philosophical universals, right? Timeless philosophical universals. So, Scalia, Breyer, take your pick. We're not talking, in other words, this is a ruse. This is a fake dialectic. That's not the question. The question is deeper. The question has to do with the nature of our discourse. The fact that we are in epistemic crisis and we refuse to scrutinize and hold ourselves to our sentences, all of them, as testimony. The idea that there's any controversy, for example, between fictitious and actual discourse, betrays utter ignorance. Okay, we have no problem about any difference between fictitious discourse and discourse that actually refers to real. See how the language breaks down? Huh? Is there a problem between fictitious discourse and actual discourse? What is... Are we talking about fictitious discourse, or are we talking about the difference between fiction and fact? Is that different, or is that the same problem? Well, but that's a philosophical question, you see. How different the way I speak already, right, in all of these matters. You notice. Because this is a way a philosopher sounds. Not fucking Nick Bostrom and Jeffrey Hinton and whoever the fuck. Those guys are not philosophers. No, you go. Cambridge philosophy, Oxford philosophy, MIT philosophy, NYU philosophy, Tufts, okay? MIT, USC, there, it's a few. NYU, CUNY Grad Center, Midtown Manhattan, Princeton, Stanford, those aren't bad, right? There's a few, Institute for Advanced Study, okay? Yeah, likely suspects.